News First, Newsline Prime with Faraz Shaukatal.
Let's hear it all directly from him, live in our studios. Very good evening to you.
Good evening, Faraz.
Lovely to see you.
After a while, yes.
And what seems to be the problem now? You've discovered something else now.
Faraz, I mean, according to the 19th Amendment, everyone was talking about for last almost 2.5 months about the Constitution and how it was violated and all. Yeah. Now, it seems like the present government, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Ministers once again tried to play around with the restriction to number of ministers to the Cabinet is very significant. We saw that, I mean, when all these cabinet ministers were sworn in, Harin Fernando and Malik Samaravikrama was given the portfolios of digital infrastructure and science, technology and research. And all of a sudden, we saw today the resignation of Harin Fernando and Malik Samaravikrama came into effect, and within no time there was another gazette notification without those two portfolios came in. And then in parallel to this, we saw that Ajit P. Pereira and Sujiva Senasinghe was appointed as the non-cabinet ministers of digital infrastructure and science, technology and research.
Wrong in that, then?
I mean, there's nothing wrong in that sense if that has happened in a very genuine way. This is just to facilitate, to find a way around of number of restricted ministers. I mean, we know according to the 19th Amendment, there could be only 30 ministers. So these people were given non-cabinet portfolios, and the portfolios removed from Harin Fernando and Malik Samaravikrama was given on them. And these two ministries are very important. We know the people like Betty Virakon and Malinda Moragoda was hosted these positions down there. And earlier, and we know...
You mean Melinda Moragoda?
Melinda Moragoda, yes. I mean, when it comes to the science, technology and research is something very important to the country, and digital infrastructure is the way forward in the digital economy.
Now, so, but Mr. Keerthi, on the other hand, it could be argued that what you're trying to say is that the government is frustrating the intent of the 19th Amendment when it comes to the 30-member limit.
Definitely.
That's what
definitely. They
are not cabinet ministers, so how will those...
No, earlier, I mean, everyone knows, I mean, under the 19th Amendment, in parallel to the 19th Amendment, no one can appoint more than 30 ministers, including the President and the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister sent the list of 37 members to the President, which is unconstitutional. I mean, if it happened in the normal circumstance, I mean, we can argue, or someone can argue, that's a very...
as many as he wants, but the President will only choose 30.
So he chose 28, including plus the President and the Prime Minister, so the 30, and 30 is the limit. So why this resignation of Harin Fernando and Malik Samaravikrama came into effect is that, I mean, removing those two very important portfolios out of them, and in an indirect way to get Ajit P. Pereira and Sujiva Senasinghe into the cabinet ministry. Now here we know, when it comes to the digital infrastructure and science and technology, I mean, almost every month there is a cabinet paper in related to this, and when it comes to the cabinet observations and all, so always these people has to be there. So I mean, who is the cabinet minister is the biggest question. Who is responsible for the cabinet ministry? Or on invitation, how can they perform as cabinet minister? Is this a play around with this? The issue here, the people who fought for the democracy and who was wearing black and all that, the people who championed democracy during the last 2 months is not talking about this. I mean, this is the same way playing around with the 19th Amendment.
But now, so who is in charge of who are the cabinet ministers?
So that's one question the Prime Minister and the President has to address. Right. And the answers should come from the Prime Minister and under the 19th Amendment. So it's the Prime Minister
so technically they'll be invited whenever there's matter to do with those ministries. They'd be invited there.
Definitely. And when it comes to the digital infrastructure, science, technology and research,
what about
on weekly basis
what
they
about
have...
Salary? What about salary and benefits?
Will
they get the benefits
it's
of
not
cabinet ministers?
I mean, here basically non-cabinet ministers and even the state ministers getting the same facility,
so
almost everything.
So
it's just a name, yes.
So it's a bit like Romeo and Juliet, it's just a name.
Just a name. Just name and nothing else. But the issue here, are we continue to play around with the constitution like this? When you go back to the appointment of Archana Mahendran, these sort of, I mean, at the very beginning, concerned people raised these cases about his citizenship issue and all that. So no, nothing was heard. And the appointment was made, and then the rest of the story is the history. Now, I mean, when concerned issues were raised, it was not very much addressed. And it seems like in this case, appointing Ajit P. Pereira and Sujiva Singh to these two very vital ministries as a non-cabinet ministers is a way playing around with the 19th Amendment. Is this what we want?
But is the 19th Amendment a good piece of legislation?
Now, the way it handled and the way it has written, I think, I mean, it might more questions than the answers.
So it needs amending. The 19th Amendment needs amending.
Definitely it needs so much of amendments, for sure, because I mean it took almost 3 plus weeks to find out what some part of this related to the dissolution of the parliament to figure it out. So I mean we need simple constitution which everyone can understand.
Right. Now then, Keerthi, it's today is what is it? About the 28th, right?
28th.
Right. It's the 28th of December. On the 31st, which is 3 days from now.
Now.
Do I have to remind you what happens on that day? It's the anniversary, the first anniversary of the Commission report being handed over to President Maithripala Sirisena. Now, that means we're 3 days short of a year. And to this day, there has been no forensic audit done by the central bank. Dr. Kumaraswamy, that is a telling indictment on your stewardship of that wonderful institution. Now, really, Dr. Kumaraswamy is a terribly nice man. And why do you think? Do you think he's got one arm tied behind his back?
Definitely, yes. I mean, when we raised this issue back in July this year, we was told within 2 months this forensic audit will officially start. And that 2 month has not started yet. And still they are searching for an audit firm, international audit firm who can do this operation. But I mean, here playing around is the right word once again in this case. I mean, it's not just the forensic audit what it matters, but the other allegations, other facts raised by the commission report. We haven't seen any big progress in related to that.
Do you think there'll ever be a full resolution to the bond scam?
At the space what things are, how things are happening at the moment, it's most unlikely. It's very frustrating.
But isn't citizen Keerthi worried about that?
Definitely. We were really worried about. We were the ones who was talking for almost 4 years now.
Can your organization or your public spirited associates, can they not go to court and force their
No, I
hand?
mean, how many times we have gone to courts on related to this? I mean, reappointment of Arjuna Mahendran was stopped, and we raised this issue. We were protesting. We were talking about this continuously. We were protesting to the president. We were talking about I mean, not a single day has gone by without talking of this particular bond commission report. And there were, I mean, when you go back into this year, I mean, there was so much of other allegations came on corruption. I mean, especially the Singapore trade fact and about the Lanka coal company deal, and the way the Hambantota port the agreement was designed and handed
That's
over.
good. I want to come to that. We'll come to that straight away now. What about that agreement?
That's the biggest question mark. I mean, what will be the next step? I mean, the president has appointed, I mean, when it comes to the Singapore trade pact, the president has appointed a committee and the report has been handed over. Some of the concern factors were highlighted. And I mean, the real issue now, almost everyone knows these issues, where the corruption, where the irregularities has happened and all that.
Are you aware that if we look at the Hambantota port, the Prime Minister and his team said that they couldn't afford the loan. Therefore, they went into an agreement with the Chinese to give them a 99-year lease for which they would pay Sri Lanka 1.2 billion, and when that money came, the idea was to settle the loan.
Yes.
Well, the money did come. The money went to the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, and from there it went to the Consolidated Fund of the General Treasury, and guess what? The loan still stands.
So this is.
So what happened to the money?
So that's the biggest, that's a really concerned issue for people like us.
And that's not all, Keerthi.
It is continue.
The loan continues, and also the other part of the agreement called for the further development of the port
and the
2 and 3. And I've been there. I can't see any development happening right now.
There's no.
So it looks like we've been shortchanged.
Definitely, yes. I mean, this is not the only case what we were concerned about. I mean, there were more cases like the Horner rubber factory premises and all. So there was a protest and people were talking about it. People knows it, what exactly happened down there. The people's concerns are not well addressed. I mean, when it comes to the corruption, I mean, we haven't seen this sort of a scale of corruption coming into act in, I mean, even during the Rajapaksa's times. I mean, Rajapaksa's time, we saw that there were corruption allegations, there were issues and all that, but there were physical development which is visible to the people. But here for last 3.5 years we haven't seen, I mean, except Moragakanda and Kaluganga the irrigation projects. I mean, is there any significant project has taken on ground? There's nothing visible. There's nothing visible in Badulla, there's nothing visible in Monragala, there's nothing visible in Hambantota or anywhere for that matter.
Let's, on that note, let's go for a short break with this message from one of the advertisers. Don't go away, because after all, this is Newsline Prime. We'll be right back.
News First, Newsline Prime with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Prime. We're in conversation with Mr. Keerthi Terakul. Keerthi Terakul, what has taken place? Shall we look at the good things, shall we? What are the good things in the last 12 months?
I mean, when you look back, as most of these people do during the very last days of their year, I mean, most of these factors which keep on reminding us at the end of the year is very, very negative. Have we reached some significant progress with any subject? I doubt it. In this 2018 was very negative, inefficient year for the country, and when you look back and see, I mean, the development, is there any significant development project?
Well, what about this? The stock exchange has been very staid, it's been flat.
Flat.
And in dollar terms, the share prices of a majority of the publicly listed companies are actually gone right down Pallang, if you like.
Yeah.
Right, and now
today 184
to the dollar. Exactly. Now that's incredible.
It's
incredible. And therefore, actually, the Prime Minister is able to celebrate another timeline, and that is that since he came into power in January 2015, the rupee has depreciated against the dollar by 50 rupees and more in the space of what?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. So that must be a celebration. Perhaps they're going to celebrate that in
31st maybe, yes.
And so on. You know, he's scored another 50. Well, okay, so that's that. What about exports? What have they done for exports?
I mean, Baba, the continually we don't come up with the export plan or new ideas. What we lacked during the last 3.5 years, new ideas to get the foreign exchange.
They did try, didn't they? Well, because they tried,
I mean, here continuously.
They did try because they tried to bring in the Volkswagen factory. And
I don't want to comment on Volkswagen, and it's. I mean, that sort of a very.
Was that real though?
It's not real. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. The issue here, there was no significant. I mean, during the presidential election campaign in 2014, December 27th. The Maitripala Sirisena and Ranil Wickremesinghe met the business community, Colombo, in a leading hotel. What they promised, the first promise what the President and the Prime Minister made to the business community during the election campaign was that to get rid of expropriation bill. Will that has happened? No. I mean, to get foreign exchange, foreign direct investment, you need a solid cover for your investment. So is the government of the UNF managed to do that? Not at all. On the other hand, they try to sell all the national assets as much as possible, and that was the #1 priority. Selling out national treasures to the foreigners was the main priority. And if you go back and look into the Hilton deal for that matter, which finally, I mean, but during the last 2 cabinet minister meetings where before the October 26 incident took place, I mean, they were ready to sell it at the half of the price, of course. I mean, there's a
lot of litigation in that matter, so they may make their plans, but they're going to have to address.
No, I mean, when you look into that paper advertisement which was published at the early October, I mean, but the company which was to hand over the Hilton is already selected.
What you're saying is that it was a made deal.
It's a made deal.
The done deal.
Done deal, and nothing else. I mean, here, how far we can go like this? I mean, just look into the power and energy sector, which is the industry, I mean, which is this sector we have to look for if we are really serious about development. Not a single megawatt was added to the national grid. So, I mean, there was proposals, there was more than 200 tenders were offered, but not a single megawatt came into the national grid during the last 3.5 years. And moreover, there was so much of allegations like Lanka Coal Company, diesel mafia, the power generation plants, all that. And the Public Utility Commission had continuous fights with the ministry. So, I mean, these are really concerned issues if we are very serious about, talking about the development and to look forward to have a very fresh start in 2019. The issue here is very clear, very simple. There is no big plan by the UNF government, and they are struggling with the cabinet and appointments, the cabinet appointments and all that.
Now, the plantation workers, they're going on about getting at least the rupees 1,000 a day. And given the rising cost of living and everything, all the prices have gone up, there's a good example actually, because before, if you were paying 130 rupees or $1 for something, whatever it was, today you're paying 184 for that.
Definitely.
Because it's gone up by at least 50 rupees. So you add that, it's about 53 now. So 184, you're paying 50 rupees more for something that 3 years ago you were paying 50 rupees less. So that's the, considering all that, 1,000 rupees minimum per day for the plantation workers seems to me to be rather reasonable.
Definitely it's reasonable. The issue here, we stand for that, and those plantation workers should get the minimum wage down there, at least 1,000 rupees per day. But here there are some additional people who is not getting that that sort of a salary, and the issues related to the farmers in Badulla or Polonnaruwa or Anuradhapura, the Dambulla, the onion cultivation is very much affected, and the potato cultivation in Badulla and Nuwara is very much affected, and there's no policy making body or organization or a government entity to ensure that there's a stable policy in related to these people. The day-to-day life has been distributed.
Yeah, when you take the tea industry, for example, the tea plantation, there's not enough work for the workers, but that's really not their fault. And the fact that their output is down compared to other countries is because the bulk of Sri Lanka's tea plantations
is going
they need replanting. And the way the system is designed, where the government gives the regional companies a 30-year lease, and by the time you replant and so on, the maths doesn't add up. So the government needs to look at that, instead of just complaining that our output is down and that our workers cost more money. Per kilo, but they cost that because there isn't.
Faraz, in addition to that, we haven't found new markets. Our main exporters were Syria, Lebanon, Russia. All of these areas we are having a very big issue when it comes to the tea exports. We have to look for alternative cultivations down there, and scientific and export-oriented industries, which is not happening at the moment.
I see.
The stable policy decisions are not made during the last 2 years at least. So that we are paying the penalty for not having a stable policy on whatever the issue here.
No stability of...
No stability at all. For last 3 months we haven't seen anything. Still we are struggling with the guest notification of the institutions coming into it. So,
are you in a position to predict what will happen between now and, let's say, April?
No one can, what the UNP wants and what the UNP is trying to do is to get further delay of the provincial council elections, which could be very much disturbing. And don't forget the fact...
Disturbing in terms of what?
I mean, when it comes to the democracy, we don't have the legitimately functioning provincial councils for 6 out of 9 provinces now, right? This is not democracy. This is not democracy at all. And don't forget the fact, I mean, the government continuously delayed the local councils, the government continuously delayed the provincial council elections. But don't forget the fact, by October 15th, the gazette notification for the nominations for the presidential election has to come. It cannot be delayed. I mean, whenever a country do not obey to free and fair elections, timely elections, I think sooner or later they have to pay the penalty for that.
And you, well, what about all these diplomats, the community, the diplomatic community? Why are they silent on the matter of the provincial council election? I mean, is that because it's a local thing?
No, I think, I mean, the people who championed the democracy during the last 2-3 months is very clear on this. I mean, what they see is, they know that there's an issue in related to the elections, and in the same time, they know the government is not performing well. They are doubting about the election results. So basically, seems like they don't want to have an election because the government is get defeated. I mean, is this what we would call democracy? I mean, this is not so-called democracy for that matter, for sure. We should have the provincial council elections as soon as possible. The champions of democracy, the speaker, has not even written to the president and say that almost 3.5 months has gone by. The delimitation report review has not come out. Only 2 meetings with that particular delimitation review committee has taken place so far. So how long, how far we are going to postpone these provincial council elections? And the people of the country should have elections at least to show that whether they are happy or frustrated with the government.
You can't have presidential elections without having the provincial council election.
Definitely, yes.
So first you must have that.
First, definitely the first election should be provincial council elections.
And do you think it will happen?
I think, I mean, there's no way this government can further delay the provincial council elections. That will come a public outcry, because the people are demanding a provincial council election because they want to show their frustration. They want to show that they are not happy with the government.
Overall, 2018 marks out of 10 for the government, how many?
I'll say not more than 2 for sure.
2 out of 10?
Yes.
Keerthi, thank you very much for being on Newsline Prime.
It's a pleasure, Faraz,
as
usual.
Let's wish our viewers a very pleasant holiday season. Don't take too much of these things to heart, because after all, we Sri Lankans, we are a resilient lot, and we do live in one of the world's most beautiful places, and no one can change that. None of these pseudo-democrats are going to do that, are they? So there you go. Have an excellent weekend ahead of you, and don't do too much of it, will you? Do take care. Have a great evening. God bless.
News First, Newsline Prime with Faraz Shaukatal.